Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Michelle Graff, and I'm the editor-in-chief at National Jeweler. I'm pleased to welcome you to the latest episode of My Next Question, National Jeweler's webinar series sponsored by RDI Diamonds. Today's session is hosted by our senior editor, fashion, Ashley Davis, and features Alysa Teichman, Vice President of Business Development at Ylang 23. Before I turn it over to Ashley and Alysa to get the webinar started, I just want to let all our attendees know that if you have a question, you can type it into the Zoom Q&A box at the bottom of the screen. I'll be back on at the end of the discussion to facilitate the Q&A, and we'll try to get to as many of your questions as possible. Also, today's session is being recorded and will be available on the National Jeweler website this coming Friday, February 26th. Now I'll turn it over to Ashley and Alysa. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Michelle, and welcome everybody. We're so happy to have Alysa here today. Alysa Teichman is the second generation business owner of Ylang 23, where she runs business development and buying. Before joining the company her parents founded more than 35 years ago, Alysa worked in retail and e-commerce. She went to Northwestern University, where she majored in journalism and French, and later received an MBA from New York University. Alysa drew from her experience and education to bring innovation and changes to Ylang 23 when she joined in 2016 in areas that include merchandising, e-commerce, operations, strategy, and company culture. Alysa's other passions besides jewelry include her constant wanderlust, a great hike, New York bagels, and her Westie sidekick, Mac. Welcome, Alysa. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Ashley. Thank you, Michelle.
So to start off, your parents opened the store in the 1980s. Can you talk a bit about growing up in that environment and your personal career path before you decided to join the family business?
Yeah, so, when my parents started the store, it was a pavilion or kiosk under an escalator in the Galleria Mall. And I was really a shop kid. So I grew up with parents who were always working in the store. It was in a mall, so we had mall hours, and that's kind of the childhood that I had. And, growing up, I never really thought I would do this. I was really into journalism and writing. I still love to write, but I went to Northwestern. I studied journalism. I thought I was going to be an investigative reporter for the New York Times. And then I kind of randomly got into fashion. One of our actually jewelry designers at the time helped me get an internship at Vanity Fair. So I worked in magazine journalism for several years. And then when I graduated in 2009, it was probably the second worst time of many of our lifetimes besides COVID. So I kind of made a pivot and decided that I was going to get into retail. So that's kind of how I got to where I am, but I, still never thought I was going to work for my parents. So I started my career at Fossil, and I worked in their executive training program. It's a Dallas-based company. And then I moved to New York. I got a great opportunity to work for a company called Jack Rogers, which is a preppy women's wear company, and I started their e-commerce. And from there, it was really just me running kind of parallel with my family. And I guess the rest is history.
Okay. And then how did you actually take the plunge to join the family business in Dallas? And what was that thought process like to kind of leave behind your other career?
So basically what happened is there was this day in New York. I was on year 3 of running an e-commerce business for this company, Jack Rogers, and I was starting to get a little bit antsy. And I remember my parents my job was in Flatiron, so my parents took me to lunch. We went to ABC Kitchen and they gave me a job offer during lunch. And this was in 2013. And I said, can I think about it? I mean, sounds really cool, but I was living in New York. I had this great job. And my dad looked at me and he said, yeah, think about it until the end of lunch. So I got a job offer at lunch. I went back, I quit my job. I worked for my parents for a year. So from 2013 to 2014. And then I decided I had been thinking about going back to school. So I got my MBA because as much as that journalism education served me in some ways, I figured if I wanted to run a business that I really needed some good business grounding. And, I think I could have learned it on the job, but the MBA really helped me get a lot of that much faster.
Okay. And I think for this generation of baby boomers, it's become a little bit less common for their children to join the family business. So what kind of experience did you have working with your parents, and what have the pros and cons been like?
Are my parents on here? Yeah, they are. Honestly, it's been amazing working with family. I think that, you hear about like best case scenario, and then you hear about worst case scenario. I took a family business class during business school, and pretty much all the case studies are about crazy families, like, the Murdochs, on which Succession is based, and companies where like the kids are trying to scheme against the parents, or the parents are trying to like screw over the kids. And my experience has been nothing like that. I think my parents and I work really well together because we all respect each other. And I think that when you come to work with that love and respect, we're always, it always starts from a place of love. And it's been really good because of that. I think that, when I started, I was really an observer. So my parents have been doing what they do for 35 years. And I really wanted to respect the foundation that they had built before, bringing in my own ideas and really getting to work. So that was really the first 6 months. And then, things kind of turned. And I think my parents always respected me and the energy and all of the ideas that I brought to Ylang 23's. So I think that, yeah, it's all about our mutual respect. And, my parents have also, I think that, you at National Jeweler deal with a lot of different kinds of retailers. And the thing that's been really amazing for me is that my parents have always been so innovative, and they've always accepted new ideas, and they've always been leaders in retail innovation. And so the fact that I wanted to bring them new ideas and process changes and, had all of these ideas for growth, that was exciting for them. It wasn't threatening. So does that answer the question?
Yeah, absolutely. And because I was trying to think, when did Ylang 23 start with e-commerce? I know they were very early in the jewelry space.
So we started online in 2000, and we got our first selling site in 2001. And that was really a testament to my mom's vision. My mom sat down one day, Joanne, and she told my dad, I want a website. And my dad was like, okay, let's get a website. So she sits at the kitchen counter and she draws what she wants her website to look like. And we found a local firm here in Dallas that we would go on to work with for like, I don't know, 15 years or so, a very long time. And so we were really the first fine jewelry company to go online. So our root is really in innovation, and that online kind of like omni-channel thing everyone talks about, super hot word. That's always been us. Like, we've always been an omni business.
Yeah. And then in the last year, of course, not even any person working in jewelry today could be prepared for what the pandemic, the challenges that the pandemic has brought. So can you take us a little bit through how you guys experienced the pandemic, through the different phases, and how you've pivoted and adapted?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I will say that this past year is nothing that my MBA or my, career experience or growing up in a jewelry family could have prepared me for. And I think my parents would agree. So I guess when I think about the beginning of COVID, really, I think about being in Paris almost exactly a year ago in March, when, some people were saying like, oh, buyers are canceling, people aren't going. And, my parents and I decided, okay, we're going to go anyway. So, we were some of the only American buyers in Paris. And when we came back about a week later, we had to close our store for what we thought was going to be a really short amount of time. And I think that really one of the things that got us through the pandemic was just leading with that authenticity and, just kind of going back to my parents and I and our relationship and our respect for each other. It was all about, how can we get through this? Like, all we care about is having a business at the end of this, number one, and number two, not letting go of any of our employees. We have an amazing group of employees, and we even have one employee who's like a sister to me, Lauren, who's been with our company for 20 years, which that kind of loyalty is just insane. And so really at the core of this was, how do we preserve what my parents have built and how do we keep our employees? So then it was like, how do we keep our employees sane and how do we keep ourselves sane? So one of the things we did is, for the first 60 working days of the pandemic, we did meditation with our team's coach every single morning at 10 o'clock for about 15 minutes. I'm not going to lie and say that I like meditating, but I think that even for someone like me, it did help us get through all of this. And, another thing is that we really we're customer obsessed. So, it's interesting. I think that, like I said before, National Jeweler has a lot of different kinds of jewelry stores and designers that you cater to and write about and serve. And we're definitely on the less traditional end of that. But I think that the emphasis and focus we put on our customer is really one of the ways that we got through this. Every time a customer ordered, someone from our team would pick up the phone and call. They would say, hey, we are closed, right? I mean, our brick and mortar store was closed for 7 weeks. So, hey, Ashley, thank you so much for ordering. We really appreciate your business. Our store is closed right now. We're going to do our best to get your order out today. But in case you didn't know, there's a pandemic happening. So if something happens, it could be delayed for a day or two. And I think that our customers showed a great deal of empathy. And I think our team really, really stepped up. And we just kind of felt like, wow, we have this amazing just community of the best customers and the best team and the best designers in the world. And we're so grateful.
How many employees do you have?
We have close to 15 employees now.
Okay. And so you guys were coming in with just, masks and different safety measures to kind of fulfill those orders.
So we had a very small rotating staff that would come in and deliver thank you notes. And I mean, it was a whole operation. We were definitely very scrappy about how we got the jewelry out the door, is all I will say at this point. Because we, at those beginning times of COVID, we just didn't know, there's so much that we didn't know about the virus that we know now. And, we just really wanted to be very extra cautious about our employees' health. So it was very staggered.
Okay. And then how did you kind of get creative with selling as the year progressed? And I mean, I know it's so different, particular to every single city and state, but with different restrictions and then easing of restrictions and more restrictions and just kind of all of the red tape that people have dealt with. How did you kind of figure out a way to keep connecting with people?
Well, there was a lot that was happening over Instagram. Thank God for Instagram. I mean, I started doing Instagram lives with our designers to try to bring some of that little like texture and magic that we have with our events and our trunk shows that we lost. And, you know, our sales team was also connecting with clients over Instagram. And I think that like texting and phone piece became really, really extra important to us. I mean, we had a lot of our sales team that was FaceTiming with clients. I mean, thank God for all of this technology. I can't imagine doing this kind of, this kind of year before we had all of these amazing tools like Zoom and, FaceTime and everything. So yeah, I mean, it was just, we did have to get super scrappy and very inventive.
And then of any kind of jewelry retailer, I mean, sometimes it's amazing to me, even certain retailers who are super luxurious and offer an incredible in-person experience might not have even been selling online yet because it was sort of against their philosophy. There is sort of that school of retailer. So for a company like Ylang 23, I would kind of consider you guys to have definitely the edge when it comes to e-commerce, since you had been doing it for so long before people really thought it was possible to sell fine jewelry online. Are there any tips and tricks you can share for your best e-commerce practices, or even kind of new ones that you've learned during the pandemic?
Yeah, I mean, I think e-commerce, it really requires such an investment, not just in money, but also in energy. And you're right, we were definitely better equipped to handle this than many other retailers, and we're so grateful for that. But, one of the other things we did is we hired a very, very senior person to join our e-commerce team this summer in the middle of June. So, he started mid-June, and he came to us. He was the head of consumer marketing for Reward Style, and he was someone that we had spoken with a little bit before COVID started. And I think that having those amazing people and treating them really well, and then trusting what they have to bring to the table is just super important. For us, e-commerce, a lot of it kind of just goes back to the customer. I mean, we're super, super customer obsessed. Our customer service, that's what we're known for. So, when you order online on our website, if you order a few times, you're probably gonna get, some sort of communication from at least one person on our sales team, and then chances are you're going to become that person's client. So I think just remembering why you're doing it to serve the customer is, that's been one of our key things, and one of the reasons that we believe we still have a business after all of this. And then, we're working on, in terms of e-commerce, big things we're working on. We're focused right now on improving our personalization and having a more, when you go into our store, which, have you ever been to our store, Ashley?
No.
Okay. Well, you'll have to get down here when travel happens again. But, you walk in and your salesperson remembers you and shows you exactly, oh my gosh, I remember that you bought this Marla Aaron, and we have this new Marla Aaron. And we're working really hard to bring that kind of experience to our online business. So personalization has been a big one. And, another thing is just creative and branding. Our website is very branded. We have made a really big investment in our creative. We have who we believe to be the most amazing creatives in town helping us. And We have also made a really big investment in our lifestyle photo shoots. And I think all of that just makes the site experience feel really high end and luxurious and easy to use, so that, you know, for people that don't live in Dallas, they can have the same kind of experience they would get walking into our store.
Yeah. And what jewelry trends have you noticed during the pandemic?
Well, during the pandemic, we have noticed that people, first of all, thank God, people still like to buy jewelry. It shows up on Zoom. I don't know if you can see that I'm wearing many necklaces and I have many ear piercings, but so that's the first thing. But we have noticed that people still love their talismans. So lucky jewelry, jewelry with meaning, you know, Foundry has been just an enormous seller for us. Colorful pieces, you know, we are really just loving these multiple ear piercings. I'm up to 16 now. I think
Oh my God.
pre-pandemic, I was at like maybe 12 or 13. And then obviously with everything that's going on, we're just seeing a huge resurgence in pearls. So yeah, people are just really loving, you know, Kamala was in pearls, and I think that, you know, pearls signify women with power. And I feel like regardless of your political leanings, I think that's just something we can all get behind. So obviously Kamala is wearing Irene Newerth's pearls, but we have a lot of designers who are doing really beautiful work. Mizuki, Kateoka, lots of designers doing great pearls. So, and then, you know, there are some things that are just always like, you know, always an arm party, always stacking the rings, the necklace layering thing. I mean, I think that when my mom and I started to wear necklaces, like 12 at a time, we thought, oh, this is just us. But our clients like really want this look too. And even some of the more conservative clients want, you know, a neck situation. So it's fun.
Yeah, and I think that's one aspect of what Ylang has done so well in the years that I've been following you guys, is just showcasing the people that work there and how they're wearing the jewelry. And then, you know, wherever you are, that inspires you once you've seen the example to kind of like feel like you could picture it on yourself. And also you guys always on your e-commerce would have, even if it was on a mannequin, you would always have some picture in there under each listing with the jewelry on someone or a mannequin, just so you had an idea of the piece's scale, which I think is the other element that makes it just easier to click and make that purchase.
Thanks. Well, I will pass that along because it's definitely a lot of work. So for our peeps who are doing that, they will be very happy to know that Ashley loves gems. It works.
And then, so your store is all about championing jewelry designers. Which designers are exciting you the most at the moment?
So many. Well, I have to take this opportunity to plug our Emerging Designers competition, the Next Now, which we did virtually about a month ago. So we're really excited about the winner, Pari, who's a Greek designer. She does these amazing, I mean, I love her pendants and her rings. But, you know, besides that, I'm really excited about just a revival of Kathy Waterman's jewelry. Her daughter, I know her daughter is on this because she just messaged me, Claire, but we've carried Kathy Waterman for, I think, 22, 23 years. And there's just something about her jewelry that is so magic and warm. I love the 22 karat gold. It feels amazing, and it's the kind of jewelry that you want to invest in during pandemic and non-pandemic times. It just feels like something that you want to wear today and pass down tomorrow. So definitely Kathy Waterman. I already mentioned Foundry before. Her mind is just insane. The amount of new pieces and collections she comes up with are just, I mean, I find her to be, Beth, extremely inspiring, and her work really resonates with our clients. I'm excited about, gosh, so many. I mean, I always love Irene Neuwirth's jewelry. I love the, I love the many ways that you can take a Marla Aaron lock and use it to just like spruce up what you already have. We got these Joanna Dada charms from Beirut that go really well with Marla locks. I love, kind of on that same note of convertibility, I love Asley. Asley does these amazing coin medallions that like clip on and off necklaces, and these amulets. Gosh, so many. I mean, I'm a big fan of, piercing my ears. So I just obsessed with everything that, Pam Love is coming out with, and Maria Tash. And I'm also really excited that we're getting BVLA, which is a true ear piercing line. So
yeah.
it's coming.
That's so cool. And I assume that our piercing party is still on hold. I know that in a lot of places you can go to a piercer, but I don't know if you're able to hold your events right now.
So we actually, one of the other things that happened during COVID is that I hired a piercer, and her name is Amelia, and she's a doll, and we are still piercing in full force. It's just not on a walk-in basis. It's really more of a appointment only thing, because we used to have crazy lines for that.
Right. So, and that's actually such a good idea, because piercers have already such a stringent cleaning hygiene protocol. They're probably the best equipped to actually perform their services during this time, because they're already so used to upholding such strict guidelines.
Absolutely.
So piercing is really a part of the Elon experience now, all the way.
All the way. I'm like never going to be able to sleep. It's either like I can't sleep on my left side or my right side. I'm like, don't touch my ears. But yeah, it's really, really fun. And I mean, that's honestly, like, when I just think about our branding and what our branding has always been, we're all about fun. Like, this is a place where, like, we're just selling jewelry, we're not curing cancer. It's supposed to be fun. And so when we started doing ear piercing, it was such a natural extension of who we are, which is just, hey, this is supposed to be fun.
Yeah. And that kind of shows another investment into your brick and mortar experience. Can you talk a little bit about how much of a role brick and mortar plays versus e-commerce, and how it's important?
Well, yeah, sure. So I think that brick and mortar and e-commerce both feed off of each other. And I think that in our kind of business, one can't exist without the other. So our brick and mortar store is, it's really like the purest way that you can experience the Ylang 23 brand. So, it's the experience that you get online is always going to be more flat than the experience you get shopping in someone's store, where you can smell the smells and feel the jewelry, and meet the owners and meet the sales team and really see how it's worn and displayed. So we feel that our brick and mortar space is really just the best way to experience our brand, and the best way for us to represent our designers, just to be completely honest. We actually not fully redid. We did a small cosmetic redo of our brick and mortar store a few weeks ago. We felt like COVID was actually kind of a good time to do that little project. So investing in our space is something that's really important to us, and something that we will definitely continue doing going forward.
And I know that we touched on this slightly, but can you talk a little bit about the Next Now? Because I think that was your brainchild, correct?
It was, yeah. So the Next Now is our emerging designers competition. I started it, it's actually the first thing that I did when I came back into the business after, finishing my MBA and moving to Dallas. I started it because my mom, Joanne, always mentored young designers, young and emerging designers. And I thought that this was something that we could really kind of deepen and in a way own. So we did our first competition in summer of 2016, and we had, I think, over 100 applicants, and we had some really high visibility judges, some great editors. We had Stephen Allen was a judge the first time, the Dean of Parsons. I'm trying to think who else. I mean, we've had amazing judges. We've done, I think, 6 editions, and our first winner was Retrovi, who many of you probably know. And Kirsty has become a great friend, and we've really seen amazing sales of her jewelry over the last 5 years. And it's just something that we really just want to keep pushing. It's just our commitment to helping younger designers.
And then also, just on the topic of your role within the company, I'm curious about succession, kind of what your plans are, what you can share, kind of what you see as your future within the company and how your role will kind of evolve.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I think succession can be one of the trickiest issues for, multi-generation businesses. And because of that, we actually hired a firm that helps companies like ours deal with some of these issues of succession. So I think that for us, it is definitely, so it's my intention to continue working in this business and, to continue working with my parents, and then at one point to run the business myself. So I think that, for us, we realize that it's great to call on experts in other areas of what we do. And so why not bring in people that are very good at dealing with some of these issues to deal with this one. That being said, I have many different interests, and I think at some point I'll have other businesses too. I am very entrepreneurial. And, my parents and I are very different. I think that working with family is not perfect. My parents and I, like I've said multiple times, we have a lot of mutual respect for each other, but it's definitely more complicated than it looks to work with family.
I can't even really imagine, or I can imagine, but I have no idea. I can definitely picture that.
I have to say that we're actually pretty good at it. I mean, you can ask our team, you can ask my team offline what they think, and then report back. But yeah, I mean, I think it takes a lot of respect, and I think that due to how complicated it is really good to just say, you know what, we don't know what we don't know, and we're going to bring in experts that will help us.
Yeah, it sounds like you guys are very successful with that, with delegating when you see fit.
Yes.
But it is funny because you and your parents, you seem so close and like you have such a great relationship, which I'm sure you do, but that's actually the biggest piece of advice I've heard from other multi-generational family businesses, was to bring in an outside firm, a third party to kind of handle a lot of the transition.
Definitely. I mean, I think that sometimes, and it's not just with this one thing, I just think generally in life, when you're so entrenched in what you're doing, sometimes you can't see outside of your own worldview. And so bringing in these experts and paying them, I mean, they're called experts for a reason. So, I mean, I'm not shy to say that, you know, we did this, and my parents and I are grateful that, you know, we did this. And I also have many other resources that I use. I'm in a family business group. You know, I have a big network from something that I did locally called Leadership Dallas. I am never embarrassed or ashamed to say, I don't know how to do this and it's really complicated, and I'm going to ask someone and get back to you. So I err on the side of, I don't know what I don't know. Let me think about it and process it and then come up with the answer later.
Totally. And I know that today is a special day for you guys because, of course, Texas has been having a very difficult time with the storm. So can you talk a little bit about what you guys are doing today?
Yes, we are donating 23% of our sales to the North Texas Food Bank and the Family Place. These are two organizations that my family and our company support year round. And the Family Place had a terrible, they had to relocate 50 families and put them in hotels, I think for 12 weeks. Mm-hmm. And the food bank, you know, was already there's just so much need. People are just struggling so much. And, you know, one of our core values is philanthropy. And, you know, besides supporting, I mean, just we care for our people, and whether our people are our team or our community, that's just who we are as a family and as a company. So yeah, today we're donating 23% of our sales. It's a special number for us in case you didn't notice. So I hope many people shop online and visit our stores so that we can, you know, give the Family Place and the food bank a lot of money.
That's amazing. And lastly, before we turn it over to audience questions, what is next for Ylang 23?
Well, I have a lot of stuff percolating. First of all, I cannot wait to start traveling again. I can't wait for our people to start traveling again. And I can't wait for our designers to start traveling again so that they can come to our store. So I think what's next for us is just, you know, restoring some normalcy, and just getting back to kind of the way things were before in some ways. We've also made some giant investments in our e-commerce. We did a big, you know, replatforming migration to Shopify earlier this year. I guess last fall, not earlier this year. And so we have a lot of enhancements that we're rolling out kind of chunk by chunk. And then there's another thing that I can't mention. So you're just going to have to, you know, have a little bit of suspense and wait and see, but you'll definitely hear about it and maybe write about it if we're lucky.
There's always something coming from you guys, so I will be waiting to find out.
It's always percolating. It's always here.
That's one way to keep the job fresh and exciting always.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Like I have trouble sleeping sometimes because I have like these ideas and racing thoughts, you know?
Well, thank you so much for this. Michelle, could we
Thank you, Ashley.
audience questions, please?
Yes, thank you so much, Ashley and Alysa. That was a really interesting discussion. And thanks again to our sponsor, RDI Diamonds. As a reminder to everyone, you can still go ahead and type questions into the Zoom Q&A box. I see another one just came in. We'll try to get to as many as possible. We had some submitted before the webinar too, quite a few actually. I'm going to give people a minute to enter their questions, and I'm going to say a quick word about RDI Diamonds. RDI Diamonds, the selection you want, the quality you need. Thousands of diamonds, that's just the beginning. RDI offers a wide range of services and support to help you succeed, from flexible memo options to a partnership with De Beers Group Industry Services to generous stock options and cost-efficient shipping. RDI's goal is to provide the highest quality of both care and diamonds to your store. Visit rdidiamonds.com today to learn more. That is rdidiamonds.com. ylang23.com. Now let's get started with our listener questions. One of the questions that came in beforehand that I thought was interesting was, do you partner with designer vendors online? If so, how so?
What exactly do you mean by do we partner with designer vendors online?
I thought maybe they meant kind of, I don't, like helping them with their e-commerce presence, I guess.
So we definitely, my mom and I, and also Lauren, our director of sales, and Mackenzie, our buyer, we are very involved with our designers and what they do. And so we're constantly, there's a feedback loop of us giving them feedback and ideas and vice versa. So I'm not sure if that's if that really answers the question, but it is like we're kind of married to our designers in a way. So yes, does that answer the question?
I think it does.
Yeah, I would add in that there's a lot of promotion of their designers. So I guess that kind of brand development, it definitely helps with.
Yes. Yeah, I think it probably helps a lot with, as you mentioned, like you like emerging designers up and coming. It probably helps people that are just starting out and just trying to get their brand out there.
Yes. And when we work with our designers, we do a lot of, first of all, we have a billboard. Our store is in Dallas. Our business is located in Dallas, and we've got a billboard, I think it's the best billboard in Dallas. I'm a little biased. And we also do local advertising and a little bit of national, not that much, but we don't require any co-op dollars from our designers to do that. Part of the reason is that our brand is our brand, and in a way that's the mixing of our designers and kind of this look of pairing designers together. But yeah, we don't take any co-op money, and that also gives us creative control too.
Yeah, that makes sense. Someone else wants to know on the e-commerce front, how much of your business is e-commerce?
So we actually don't really like to segment it because we do feel like we have this omni business where the two feed off each other. But in terms of pure sales, when someone's going online and purchasing from us, it is about a quarter of our sales that are online. We expect for that to grow. Obviously, clients that, have that pure in-store experience, I think that they tend to spend more because they're experiencing our brand in a different way than someone who's just going online and transacting. But yeah, that's kind of where we are today.
Yeah, I think we're definitely getting into a phase where it's a kind of circular relationship, right? And you don't have to worry so much about, well, I'm making only 20% of my sales online. So I really need to concentrate in e-commerce? Like that shouldn't be the focus. The focus should be creating a whole experience, whether they're shopping online or in store, and making that experience cohesive between both.
And just kind of an interesting point, we don't commission our salespeople. So one of the reasons that when you walk into Ylang 23 and you might have a lovely experience, or if you call the store and then you transact online and you have a lovely experience, is because our salespeople aren't sitting there feeling like the online team is taking something away from me. It's all for one and all for one and one for all. That's something that my parents have always done. We pay our employees bonuses based on, their performance and our company's performance, but it is not this sharky, an online sale is an online sale and an in-store sale is an in-store sale. We don't care where you buy when you're a customer.
Very cool. Thank you. Here's a question I'm very excited about because we've talked about it before the webinar started. What is the meaning of your store name?
The meaning of our store name. So Ylang is a fragrant flower. I don't know if you guys know this, but This was a company, my father's French, and it was a French concept that came to the United States, and my parents started their business as part of a franchise in the mid-'80s, right before I was born. So it was called Ylang Ylang, which is a fragrant flower that you've probably heard of or seen in skincare stores. And it was called Ylang Ylang because apparently it's pronounced the same in every language, which I don't really understand because none of my friends pronounce it correctly. They all say Ylang Ylang or Yang Yang or whatever. Anyway, about 15 years ago, my parents changed the name to Ylang 23 to kind of pull away from any associations with that franchise business and add 23, which is their lucky number because they met on March 23rd, got engaged on April 23rd, and got married on November 23rd of 1980, all the same year.
Oh, so cool.
So
Thank
that's why
you.
we're donating 23% of our sales today on the 23rd.
Oh, it is the 23rd today. Someone else wants to know another e-commerce question. Who does the photography for your website? Do designers give you the high-res pictures? And I think this is a good question because I know we get a lot. I think website photography is a big issue, obviously, for stores today because they need it. And jewelry is not the easiest thing to photograph and photograph well.
So it's definitely a complicated thing. We do a hybrid. So we at some points have had someone in-house. Sometimes we use designers' photos if they're good. And then we also have a local photographer that we use. So it's basically a lot of us kind of evaluating on case-by-case basis who does our pictures. And honestly, I wish that I had an easier response to this question because it is a hot button issue for us too. I'm not going to pretend like, oh, this is just a really easy thing for us because it's hard for everyone. And jewelry is probably the hardest thing to shoot ever.
Is it difficult in terms of just trafficking samples or just in having the right person to take the right picture that you need?
The second thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, for us, our corporate office is, within walking distance of our store. So getting the jewelry to a place where we can shoot it isn't the difficult part. It's just, the process to retouch diamonds and make them look as pretty as diamonds. And, how do you take an exquisite, stone piece by Irene Newerth or Sharon Kazam, who's in this webinar, and make it look as amazing as it does in person to sell it online? I mean, you kind of can't, but it's hard.
Yeah, it's definitely a tough issue. Well, thank you for sharing that. I think actually that is very helpful. We have kind of two tips type of questions. The first one, somebody wants to know, what are your recommendations for introducing a new fine jewelry brand to retailers?
You mean if is it someone that's a designer that wants to know, or is it or is it a store that wants to,
Is a person that is launching a new fine jewelry brand. So how, what are your recommendations? And they come to you, like, what should they have? What should they do to kind of get their brand in your store?
Well, I think that first of all, they should have a full collection. And I think that they should have, I think their branding and their point of view and their Instagram needs to be in a place where, it's ready for prime time. I also think that, we talk a lot about this in our competition, The Next Now, but we have a lot of people. I have people emailing me or DMing me every single day saying, hi, I have a jewelry brand. I see that you sell Jen Meyer. Because you have a client for Jen Meyer, I think that your client will really love our collection. And it's like, we have Jen Meyer, we don't need you. So I think that point of view piece is really important. And I think that honestly, for these brands that have good product with that point of view, that quality, that great branding and Instagram, it should be easy from there. I think the problem is that most new jewelry designers lack some of those things.
Okay, those are some great tips. The second one, someone wants to know, how do you go about building a prestige brand online and maintaining it?
How do I go about voting?
Building a prestige
Oh.
brand online and maintaining it.
Meaning like Ylang 23 is the brand or one of our designers?
Yes, as your brand, as your store is a brand, and specifically they want to know about building a brand online.
Gosh, it takes a lot of work. I mean, you just have to be ready to put in the sweat equity. I can't even say that I have put in nearly the sweat equity that my parents have. But my parents have lived and breathed this brand for 35 years. And I think that you have to be really on your toes, and you have to be kind of willing to sacrifice a lot of things to keep your brand current and relevant. I think that relevance is really, I mean, it's a big question. That would be a lot for me to unpack in just one answer. But I think, how do you stay relevant? I think you have to really figure out what customers want, and you have to figure out creatively how to show your jewelry, and you have to invest in photography. And then you have to, on top of all of that, you have to have the right product. You have to have really good people who can offer the best customer service out there. I think that there are just so many elements to that. There are so many dimensions to that response. It's almost hard for me to even tackle in one answer.
Well, someone wants to know, Alysa, and by someone, I mean your mother. Alysa, what is your DNA? What words define you in order to build your brand? And this is your mom's question.
Well, a lot. Smart. I think that's something that I always am obsessed with. How can I be smarter? Who can I meet with? Who can I learn from? Creative. I think differently from a lot of people. And I think curious. I have a strong sense of wanderlust, and I ask a lot of questions, and I spend a lot of time just deep in my own thoughts. So are those good?
No, that's good. And if you ask a lot of questions, that explains your interest in journalism, because journalism is all asking questions.
Was that good? I'm just kidding.
I'll let you know if she responds. So we have one last question. It sounds like you had a good 2020, which is something that we actually are hearing from a lot of jewelers, kind of unexpectedly so, given all the challenges brought about by the pandemic. So what do you expect for sales in 2021? And I don't know, they didn't say exactly what they meant, but I guess I would ask it in two veins, level of sales. Do you expect sales to continue to be strong? And B, what do you expect to be selling in terms of product trends, et cetera?
So we expect for our sales, we are projecting a sales increase of 10 to 15% from last year. Last year, 2020, believe it or not, was our second best year that we ever had in our company's history, which was shocking. And I'm so grateful for that. We think that a 10 to 15% increase in sales is conservative, because I'm reading everything that I'm reading in the press is just saying that, okay, when this is over, people are just going to be nuts. There's just so much pent up energy and cash. So I think that people are really going to be splurging in all areas of their lives, including hopefully jewelry. In terms of what people are going to be buying, I think that it's going to be more of the same that we've been selling over this last year. I think the necklace trend is huge. People are just going crazy for pendants. I think ear piercing and, investing in those experiences and camaraderie and, being social with friends and getting a new piercing, having a little bit of a wild hair is going to be something that will definitely continue throughout the year. And, you know, more of those like future heirlooms and, you know, pearls and just jewelry that makes people feel amazing and powerful, because we believe that, you know, we have a very strong self-purchasing woman client, and we think that she's going to continue buying that jewelry that makes her feel amazing.
Sounds good to me. We're almost out of time here today, so I'm going to wrap it up. Thanks again so much, Alysa, for joining us today. And Ashley, thank you so much for hosting. This was a great session. My next question is going to be taking a break next week, but we will return the week of March 9th. In the meantime, I've dropped into the chat here a link to all our past recorded webinars. I also dropped a couple links to specific ones while we were talking today. And you can check back to our webinar schedule page soon for more information on upcoming sessions. Thank you again all for joining us today, and please take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.